What's up, lot? Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation. Today, I've put together a head swap showcase for Batman the Cowardly Lot. Of all my Batman head swap videos, this is one I am particularly excited by. That's because figures built off the Hush and Three Jokers body usually can't do the kind of head swaps I want to see. Their neck joints are down here, so the heads just aren't compatible. Cowardly Lot, however, has been updated with a normal neck joint, so I can't wait to see what other heads look like on this body. Before digging in, though, I did get a request for a side-by-side comparison with David Cornsweat's Superman, so here you go. With that out of the way, let's kick things off with some fun outside the Batbox designs. For one of my first DC Multiverse Batman, and still one of my favorites, here's Dark Knight's Death Metal. When I think of this style of Batman costume, I think of shorter ears, and this definitely fits that bill. But as you can see, this head is much too small for this body, which I have a terrible fear I'm going to be saying a lot. Other way around, though, and I like how the longer ears work with this design, and although the head is bigger, the proportions still work out pretty well. From a much more violent Earth, and here we have the Punisher-like Grim Knight. Again, this head's a bit small, and an argument could be made that it sits a bit too high, but this head does work better on this body than Dark Knight's Death Metal, and once again, the Cowardly Lot head doesn't look half bad here. Full disclosure, though, I don't have it clicked into place because if I did, the neck would be too short. Next up is Dark Detective. One of these days, I'm going to break down, bite the bullet, shave the ears off, and touch it up. And once I do that, I think this head would look really good on this body. Of course, this configuration looks 100% better, just by merit of not having a pair of goofy-looking human ears sticking out of the sides. And then, for the Dark Knight's dark side, and here's the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh. Similar to Dark Detective, one of these days I want to get an extra one of these and paint the mask black, because honestly, it always spruces up the figures I swap with. Other way around, and Zur-En-Arrh is such a specific look and texture, I don't really think this works. If you do though, and this inspires you, more power to you. If you're enjoying this video so far, do me a favor and give it a like. Of course, sometimes it isn't Bruce under the cowl at all, so here are some of those options. My first DC Multiverse Batman, and still one of the best, here we have Thomas Wayne from Flashpoint. Flashpoint is one of my favorite Batman heads, but this looks really cool. Just paint the eyes red, and I think we have a winner. Other way around, and this really works for me too, is a short-eared option. It's a little small, but the facial structure is actually very similar to the Three Jokers version. Next up, and for the Batman head swap MVP, here we have Timothy Fox. And yeah, just like always, this would be really cool as a motorcycle helmet or something like that. It does skew a bit small, but I think you could fudge it. On the flip side, this head might be a little bit big for this body, but this costume is so cool, I don't even mind. From Batman Endgame, and here's Jim Gordon. I had to use a shorter neck peg from Superman Hush to make this work, but overall I'm very pleased with the results, and I think it balances out nicely. Unfortunately, I can't quite say the same thing the other way around. And then for the most famous Batman substitute, here we have Dick Grayson from Batman Reborn. Once again, I had to use the Superman Hush neck peg, but if you want a larger scale Dick Grayson Batman, this would be a good start. That said, the gloves are wrong, and you would have to swap out the belt, and unfortunately I was not able to do that for you because for whatever reason, McFarlane glued down the trunks on this one. That said, for those who wanted to make a smaller scale Hush, this is encouraging. Veering into different mediums, and here are some video game options, starting with one that I've been really curious about, and here's Arkham Knight. For a realistic long-eared option, it's hard to go wrong with this head. Once again, I did have to use that Superman Hush neck peg though. Alternately, I didn't really have a lot of hope for this configuration, but as it turns out, I like it a lot. As much as I like the Arkham head, it is a bit small, and so this balances out better. Next up is the Arkham Knight Sinestro Corps skin. For those looking to spruce up their Sinestro Corps with something a bit more comic style, this is fine. Other way around though, and this isn't half bad, but I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. It cuts a really nice silhouette, but the face does seem a little bit small. And then for another one I'm really optimistic about, and here we have Arkham City. When it comes to this style of Batman costume, I tend to prefer shorter ears, but I do really like this combo. Of the long-eared options we've looked at so far, this configuration has got to be my favorite. Other way around, and not surprisingly, the short ears really speak to me here. It's a departure for the game design, but works really well with this costume. If you'd like to support my channel so I can make even more content, link to my coffee in the description below. For one of the most important parts of a Batman head swap showcase, and here we have the movie versions. Kicking things off in this section, of course, is the incomparable Michael Keaton from Batman '89. As somebody who doesn't really think the likeness is all that great, this doesn't really do much for me. It does feel like a more realistic Batman, and I guess it's kind of like if Michael Keaton had a cloth costume. That said, I do like this configuration a bit more. It's not exactly accurate to anything, but it looks cool. Jumping ahead, and here's George Clooney from Batman and Robin. As always, it might not be one of my favorite movies, but this head always looks good. It's just generic enough to feel like what Batman might be like as a real person. Next up, and revitalizing the Bat brand, is Christian Bale from The Dark Knight. If you prefer Christian Bale's mask, this also gives that realistic Batman feel, though I personally still feel like the George Clooney head feels like a more all-around generic Batman. And speaking of generic, if you wanted to pull the Dark Knight costume into that comic space, this head looks fine for that. All that said, I much prefer his costume from Batman Begins. If you wanted to comic book up this costume, the head works really well here, and admittedly, while it might not be comic accurate, I do really like an all-black batsuit. As long as we're here though, and here's the unmasked Christian Bale head. Personally, I think this looks less like Christian Bale and more like Rob Lowe, but maybe that's just me. Either way, when it comes to unmasked Bruce Wayne heads, it's pretty slim pickings. For the next Bat in our belfry, and here's Ben Affleck from Batman v Superman: The Dawn of Justice. Just like the George Clooney head is the way to go if you want a long-eared option, this is definitely your winner for a short-eared. I say that because it's a good, realistic Batman head, but if we're honest, it doesn't look that much like Ben Affleck. If, however, you want a comic book style Batman that's hyper-realistic and detailed, this looks really good. Maybe use a shorter peg and paint the trunks and you'd be in business. For a much stronger Ben Affleck likeness though, and here's the tactical armor from Justice League. There are more panel lines and things like that in the mask, which kind of conflict with the body. It could also be argued that the head is a little bit too small. On the flip side though, if you want just a good all-around armored Batman, this looks great. You could definitely mix and match this with your comic book shelf with no trouble at all. And finally, for the film category, Robert Pattinson from The Batman. I feel like all I ever do is dunk on how much I don't like the Robert Pattinson mask, so today, all I'm going to say is that if you like it, it does scale really, really well. On the other hand, I always talk about how much I like his costume, and that's definitely not going to change. And together with this head, I'm pretty happy with the combination. On to the main event, and let's wrap things up with those classic comic designs. Showing just how far the line has come, and here's McFarlane's first Batman, Detective Comics 1000. Like I always say, any head is an improvement over the one that came on this body, and this is no exception. On that subject, I've been thinking about removing this figure from my head swap rotation because of how outdated it is. Let me know in the comments how you feel about that. Either way, this head is definitely not a fit for this body. Next is Rebirth, and I don't have a very good feeling about this one. And yeah, pretty much like I suspected, this looks less like Batman and more like Pinhead from Puppet Master. Other way around, and conversely, this one is way too big. To me, it looks like Batman wearing a Batman Halloween mask over his own mask. For one that I'm hopeful about, and here's the black and gray version of Nightfall. The head is slightly small, but I think you can get away with it. In fact, it's one of my favorite combinations that we've looked at so far. Other way around, and on the flip side, this head might be just a skosh too big, but again, if you like it, you could definitely make this work. Next up is Page Punchers and Batman Noel. Starting with Noel, you have that more clearly gray bodysuit, which also benefits from the cloth goods cape. The Noel head is a static expression, and as a short-eared option, does look pretty good on this body. What fascinates me is that the Page Punchers costume has a kind of greenish tint to it, and while not green exactly, the Cowardly Lot body kind of reminds me of it. It's also worth pointing out that both of these heads are sneering. Still in need of its own video, and here's the new 52-inspired 13th Hour Backglider Batman. This particular Batman is a slightly retooled version of Rebirth. So once again, the Cowardly Lot head is a little bit big for the body, and the 13th Hour head is a bit small for Cowardly Lot. If you had to though, you could get away with it. And lastly, the Walmart exclusive Batman Year One. Year One is also a retooled version of Rebirth, so I do think this head is disproportionately large, but to my eye, this matchup is perfect. The Year One head is a bit on the large side, so so the whole thing really balances out. Which combination did you like best? Are there any I didn't try that you wish I had? Let me know in the comments below. For more Batman videos, check out one of these, and until next time, play nice and have fun. I wonder if anyone's going to realize I didn't show this combo.